Welcome to the Global Exclusive Podcast. Today we are joined by three other speedrunners where we're doing an any percent speedrun on the podcast because some people have to go soon and Muspel's mic is dying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're so well
We are
prepared. This is a
professionals.
professional podcast. We are professionals, Dream.
I feel like if we were to be professionals, you have to get paid.
Well,
No. It's called what's that? What do they say what interns do when they don't get paid? Unpaid internship? This is what it is.
Well, hold on. That's actually an interesting thing. Like, is that the definition of professional?
Yes.
Is that
yes.
someone getting paid
Professional.
for their
You
services?
Yeah.
do it for a profession. It's
Yeah.
your job.
It's your job.
All right. So we're definitely not professionals.
As opposed to an amateur who does it for love. Like ama is the root word that means love.
All right, English
right.
major, shut
so
the fuck
we're
up.
not even amateurs because we hate this podcast. So I don't know what the fuck we are. We're masochists. That's what we are. Now that makes sense.
So
But,
what
you
you're
know-
saying is Muspel's an amateur wiki raider.
I think we should move on from this before Barrows can talk about masochism anymore because I'm really afraid where this is going to go.
That's actually a topic I'd like to dig into, but maybe not on this
I
episode.
feel like this episode was the perfect episode for Hazard to make a surprise appearance, and I was low-key hoping for that to happen, but it didn't.
Well,
But
Blank didn't make an appearance, so you know.
He's on the vision card.
yeah, that's as close as
That's
we
true,
can
I
get.
guess. That's true. Speaking of vision cards, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, the first unit we are going to talk about is actually Lightning Fast Zidane, and why doesn't Muspel open up with the STMR and TMR first? Because the STMR is what people are interested about, to be honest.
Let's
Yeah,
start
I
by
guess,
talking
yes.
about his kit. And
No, his STMR is what's so much
It's
more
like,
interesting.
why? For once we want to start with your thing, Muspel. Why are you reverting
no,
it?
we have to start with the kit. Just give me a second to introduce what he does.
Oh, well, I
Okay.
want to talk about the kit, because you only know the pain of the kit because I made you learn.
Okay, let me hear about it.
I knew
I know
about it
nothing about
already.
this kit.
Okay, as a disclaimer, what happened this week is that usually Dream would do the math for damage DPS units. But what happened this week was that Dream was like, no, fuck you, Muspel, you should do the math. And Muspel ended up doing the math, and now he wants to commit suicide. All right, continue on.
So
Okay, so
let me
why?
just
Why is it
kind
so
of-
bad?
Let me describe his kit. So he's a physical damage dealer who revolves around finishing with his shift LB. Now this LB is stacking, so it's not at full power until the third time you use it. It costs 80, and his only fills are his basic attack in shift form, or his skill that does no damage and fills 5 in his base form. His shift only lasts 4 turns, and then has a 5-turn cooldown.
Jesus.
It's elementless, and he has no imbues. His only LB damage buff is on his base form LB, and doesn't last long enough to cover a full shift. His only attack buff is 230%, and also doesn't cover his full shift.
All right. Enough
And-
with the pros. What are the cons of this unit?
As you say. And by now you're probably thinking, wow, this sounds like he sucks. And the worst part is that if you give him a full marching band of support to parade him around,
A massage therapist and a
hits damn
Rolex
hard.
wristwatch.
Maybe a blowjob.
All right, this is where I put up my sins are hot, and I say it's really not that hard. But, you know, I'll just end it at that.
So the thing that he's going to want first and foremost is he's going to want somebody to entrust him, like pretty often.
Shira.
Yeah, I mean, like, even normal LB fill skills are not good enough when you have an LB
No.
that costs 80. So
Yeah.
definitely entrust, right?
Yeah, entrust is
Mhm.
the only reasonable option to get his LB filled without like using Aurora's scarf and so that he attacks 4 times, and even that is only going to fill 24 crystals, 48 if you have 2 of them. It's just
If anyone's ever bored, look at the wiki ratings build for Zidane. It's fucking hilarious.
I mean, to be fair, the one that he's going to be rated around doesn't even use that. He's just chaining.
Oh, sad. I like that one.
But yeah,
So-
so he wants entrust, and then he also wants, I guess this is where we can transition into talking about the TM and STMR and all that. His STMR is a materia that gives the unit who equips it like a big AoE buff thing. So it's a bard skill. A lot of people probably aren't familiar with bard skills because we haven't seen one in like 3 years. But bards are locked into singing for a certain number of turns. In this case, it's 5 turns. And the buff gets stronger each turn. You get a 250% attack or stat buff for the first 4 turns of it, and then a 300% stat buff on the last turn, and then an LB damage buff that gradually ramps up, reaching 300% on the last turn. So,
and it's AoE.
Yes. So the idea is that you give this to somebody. It could be him, it could be somebody else, probably somebody else since you want him to stack up his LB, and then you set up this really huge burst on that one turn, which is it's good for Dark Visions if you can manage to wait that many turns before bursting, which for some bosses
If you enjoy your
isn't a
setups
problem.
being a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
Sometimes
listen.
they'll be awful.
I've found that waiting like long before bursting is really difficult for me. Like normally I just want to burst as soon as I get started. So this is definitely not the unit for me.
Yeah. And then
That was like a sexual joke. I just want to make that
so
super clear.
I realized that, but then I wanted to stay silent, so hoping we just go over it. But clearly, you want to.
No. I just I like to make it explicit, right? So we now know. I was talking about ejaculating. Okay,
moving on.
Yep.
He'll also want other kinds of support for Dark Visions, Elemental Amp.
But hold on. I have a question. Hold on. So I've been hearing that his STMR was stealth buffed. What's up with that? What happened?
Yes.
Well, in JP, his STMR could only be equipped by certain units. Certain units, I mean FF9. I think that was the restriction. But now, literally anyone can.
It was like forms of Zidane and dedicated like singing units.
Oh, was it?
It wasn't just
FFBE
singing units.
ones.
Like Garnet could use it for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, Garnet sings in the game, so it makes sense.
Yeah, but he doesn't sing in FFBE.
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay, so
and
that's a
then-
big deal, I guess, because now you can actually, what you said, Muspel, give it to someone else instead of him.
Fun side note: they apparently people at Gumi were not on the same page because when this first came out, it did have restrictions on who could equip it. But those restrictions weren't just the JP ones; they added some global exclusive units to it. Myra could use it, Rivera could use it, and so could Chin.
Oh.
And like that,
I think basically their hand was forced by not mentioning the restrictions in like the banner news.
could be.
And then they're just like, well, I guess the solution of this is to make it just meet that and not have restrictions.
I mean, it's nicer for DV, and this whole unit is really a DV unit. Like it's a hardest burster.
His STMR is basically entirely useless outside of Dark Visions. Because
Imagine using this in Genies.
you're never going to waste you're going to never gonna have somebody spend 5 turns doing this anywhere where you don't just care about burst, which pretty much just means Dark Visions.
Yeah.
His TM is also pretty good. It's a body armor with 30% dodge, which is already good, and then it also has offensive stats that are pretty solid. For Zidane himself, it also gives 500 flat attack, which is very strong. His vision card is fine. It's another card with 110 attack. The attack passive on it is for daggers, which is most units don't want to do that, but whatever.
It's not too bad now that we've got the Chronicle Battle upgrade for
Rakish
old
Thief.
Zidane's SDMR.
True.
Because that's like a 206 attack weapon with 50% true dual wield for everyone now.
Yeah, although the fact that daggers don't have an attack rare still kind of sucks, but you might have gotten it from that one past item world event if you ran through
I did
that item a bunch.
so many fucking runs, and I got it.
Good for you. All right, so I mean, let's put it on paper here. So Zidane is our strongest burster. Like 1 turn burst seems to be he even out damages Noctis, or at least I'm looking at the whale sheets, STMR sheets.
With the full DV support kit, he is,
but
not like by a massive percentage.
But here's a problem that I felt. I was discussing this with Shadow just before the podcast started, which is, well, I mean, so a lot of this is also due to him, buffing up his own LB, going to the 300%. But thing is, Noctis is fairly close, right? Like Noctis still does a lot of damage. Arden also still does a lot of damage. So Zidane, for someone that already has a lot of Dragoons, is not going to be a huge increase in
I think
damage.
the problem is that you're doing about 5 times more work for not that much more damage.
Exactly. So it's not a must-have unit, even if you're a DV. Well, I guess if you're a DV fanatic, it's a must-have. But
But those people are crazy and we don't like them.
If you're wanting to really get the top scores, then yeah,
because like
you'll be salivating over him. And
yeah, because it's not until free Aerith from the FF7 remake new banner with Sephiroth where we get an AoE 300% LB buff, right? This is going to be the only one for quite a while.
I think hers is 250 even.
Oh,
yeah, hers
okay.
is 300.
There's a couple other things about him that I want to mention. The first is that he has a perfect dispel that's spammable in his Brave Shift. Now, he can't stay in his Brave Shift all the time. It only lasts 4 turns, and it has a long-ass cooldown to get back to it. But that could come in handy for certain Dark Visions bosses, I guess. And the other thing is that he has 50% dodge innately, goes up to 80% with it just as TM. So getting him to 100% dodge is pretty trivial. And like, that's not necessary on most fights, but you could use it instead of Mirage if you want to open up your team comp a bit. Usually getting your damage dealers to 100% dodge is way worse than just using Mirage, but Zidane is one of the few exceptions.
I mean, it goes with the theme. The OG Zidane actually was one of the units that could easily gear for Behemoth K back when he came out.
Yeah.
It's nice to see that he keeps it.
The downside is that his weapon selection isn't great. It's like he can't use a lot of the Scorn Killer weapons. He uses daggers, sword, and throwing weapons, and technically maces, but nobody gives a shit about those.
Doesn't he have a lot of like materia space left though? Like I think for most people, he will have materia space left.
He does cap very easily.
So that
and like his weapon selection still includes like he's got the Chronicle Dagger and he's got like Noctis's Chronicle Weapon as well available. So there's like enough good options.
I think the problem is that like a lot of his attack passives are based on daggers. So if you're using a weapon in peril, I'm not even sure if there is a good dagger in peril. Like if you give him equip something else,
Hawkeye has one, but not currently.
Like he's gonna have a hard time taking
hairs,
advantage
though.
of some of the Scorn weapons.
It really is splitting hairs. I don't think that his. I mean, it does impact him, but it's not as big as we think. And the thing about Zidane that I do like about his kit is it drove you guys nuts. Is that the whole Brave Shift? Conceptually, it's just him going into trance, and in the game, like Zidane would, and this extends to the rest of the party too. I'm playing FF9. They would go trance in the worst times possible for me. So this just
fuck the trance system.
It doesn't match how it worked in Final Fantasy 9. If it was like Final Fantasy 9, he would go into trance at random times. You wouldn't be able to control it.
Technically, it's not random, from what I recall. There is a mechanic to it. It's just really hard to control.
You wouldn't get to choose when he went trance.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
So, I mean, there's not much more to say about the unit itself, other than, you're not going to be using this on trials. He has some decent mods in the Brave Shift, but as stated, you're not in the Brave Shift forever, and the cooldown back to Brave Shift is quite long. So.
Yeah, and if you're not entrusting him, then his damage is pretty shit by modern standards. Yeah. He's like around the first batch of NV units without his LB.
I guess one thing that could be mentioned that we still haven't mentioned, okay, this is the last thing, I promise, is that his base form limit burst actually has a 250 LB damage buff to the entire party. So that's also something you can do if you just have the base form for some reason. Then it's a nice buff. It still costs 80 though. It still costs 80.
Yeah. Filling it up is still going to be a nightmare, but
But it's a very strong buff, and if you're doing LB damage dealers, then this could be really good. Although many of the strongest LB damage dealers, like Lunafreya and Terra and so on, already have their own 250, so it's, I guess, moot point. It's really good for Cloud. Like, to get him to out-damage Tifa. It's really good.
Cloud Envy, the one that out-damages...
Ibarra is also a big
one. Yeah, it's great for Ibarra, too. That's a good point, Dream. Right. Like, if you use Zidane for... you could use Zidane for Genies, I guess, in some shape or form, I don't know. Maybe.
I wouldn't, but because Ibarra's not using her LB on Genies.
Ah, okay. I did not know that, actually. But that's going to be interesting, because I know nothing about Ibarra and Genies, so I can't wait to hear about that. But before that, we have one more unit to talk about, and maybe the more interesting unit in some aspects.
So Beatrix is a breaker/damage dealer. She's got like 130x mods on her moves, which is pretty impressive, and then she has a 70% attack and magic break that goes up to 74% with her limit burst, and 80% defense and spirit break. That's really great. Right, guys?
Yeah. Sounds really good. How?
She also just happens to have a couple of tanking abilities in Shift.
Yeah.
Are they like as good as, but the thing is, with all these hybrid units that do damage and then tanking, they're usually shit at tanking. Like, look at Sabin. Is she like a Sabin?
Yeah, let me just plug in some numbers here real quick, and just see how good she is at tanking. All right, carry the 3. Oh, okay. But yeah, in all seriousness, she's a very good magic tank. She's not the tankiest unit in the game. That's still Snow's turf, but Snow is very clunky to use and generally can't be that tanky until
Oh,
at
come
least turn
on.
2
He's
or
not
3.
that clunky.
Okay,
Oh
wait.
yeah,
This
he
is
is.
not that discussion.
Wait, isn't Snow worse against magic because like his magic cover has like lower mid than his physical cover? Like physical Snow is like tankier than magic Beatrix, but I don't know if magic Snow is tankier than magic Beatrix.
I guess I'm not actually sure. I think he would be tankier still. Like,
His
All right,
cover
let's stop
his cover
splitting
mods are
hairs.
really low though, so it could affect him a lot.
Yeah, okay. It doesn't matter who's 5% better than the other. She's actually a top fucking tier magic tank. Bulky as fuck. And compared to Gladio, she doesn't have to do the one single thing every turn. She can actually do something else.
a
Not that she
little
can
bit.
do much else, but
She's still kind of action locked because she probably wants to use her barrier skill on most turns. And she has to use it every other turn because it has the 85% mitigation on it.
yeah, true. It's a 5k barrier, so it's very
Yeah.
nice to get every turn. Yeah.
In terms of effective health, she's going to be somewhere between 10 and 25% ahead of Phasey in most cases. It kind of depends on gear. Like if you have Spirit True dual wield gear, Phasey gets pretty close. But then Phasey's not using shields, which makes resist a little harder. So you have to kind of
Yeah.
think about what you need for the fight. Phasey does AoE 75 to 80% magic mitigation, whereas Beatrix can, with her LB, do 75% AoE general mitigation. So if it's just magic damage you're worried about, Phasey is probably better because you do get some turns where you have 80%, assuming you're comparing to a 50% buff. But Beatrix would be better against physical, hybrid, or whatchamacallit, or fixed attacks. It's
So
just
her
that those don't happen much.
doesn't her LP have a nethicite effect or something?
Yes.
I know we haven't seen that in a while, but like I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but one thing, it's actually much, much better for something else, which is that her LB actually has fucking 75% general mitigation to your entire party.
He just said
I
that.
just said that.
Wait, what? Oh, did I not listen to you? Oh, okay.
Sounds like another Tuesday to me.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna edit this out. I'm probably not gonna edit this out. I'm gonna forget it. Anyway,
Beatrix is that she's technically a free unit if you're like part of this event.
I mean, not
So-
technically, she is a free unit.
Yeah,
but like if you're playing after this event's over, it's not
Or I
free.
guess that's what technically means.
yeah, but
Yeah.
who's
Yeah.
going to go back and listen to old podcast episodes?
I mean, that's
exactly.
also true.
She's
She's a free unit. She's a free fucking unit. So
Exactly.
it's probably the best free unit we've ever gotten in this game since like the Magic Tank Lightning that we got last year or something.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, Gilgamesh was... Yeah, exactly.
Gilgamesh
Oh, yeah,
probably
Gilgamesh
comes
comes close.
One other thing I want to mention is if you are planning to use her as a magic tank, and like even if you have Phasey, it's definitely worth using her as a magic tank sometimes. Be sure to get her upgraded TM from the event. You can upgrade it twice with stuff from the Mog King event, and that makes it give 145 flat spirit, and then it also has a passive for her only that gives 2,000 HP and 500 attack and spirit.
I didn't know this. What the fuck? I need to read the news.
Yeah, this is...
Yeah. It's
Didn't
pretty
you
strong
listen
for
to the Newsday podcast, Shadow? Because we literally went over this very clearly in the Newsday podcast.
All right.
Everyone knew what farm.
All right. How much you want to bet I actually listen to our podcast?
Gosh,
I'm gonna say no. Yeah, I'm not gonna bet that.
I'm not putting
I
any
don't even
money
listen
on
to
it.
the news days.
Oh my god.
But yeah, the fun thing is Beatrix caps like 400% spirit just innately, and then also has like 1,000 flat, 200% from equipment with like a weapon plus shield.
Yeah.
So she gets like max spirit effortlessly and can just spam like HP and resists.
I
and
also want to
gearing.
mention she's got ability awakenings for some of her white magic, or white and green magic. The big thing here is the 50% magic mitigation from Shelga +2. So
Mhm.
I know a lot of people aren't used to scrolling down to that part on a Unis wiki page just because it's usually not relevant, but be sure to grab those. She also gets Reflect +2, and Reflect is useful like once in a blue moon.
Wasn't there a Sinzar video where he used Reflect and like beat a LDV boss? And I think that was technically the upcoming DV.
Yeah, probably with VV Steiner bullshit, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it could be
there's
that,
but there's
they
one
use it, but it's also useful for a
and
mob.
there's one interesting thing that I think we should mention. So Beatrix, and we did say this on the Newsday podcast as well, but so Beatrix is actually supposed to be able to use white magic as well in her multicast, but right now it's still bugged, I guess not in the game yet, so she can't. But technically, she would be able to use all the white magic in her kit as well while tanking, which is quite interesting because there's good stuff. Like there's the Shelga. She could do Chaos Wave Awaken Chains with Banishka. Banishka sounded very Russian.
One other thing I want to mention, she has Kiraga. Normally that's shit, but her spirit is so high that it's actually going to heal for like around 10k.
So it's still
That's
good.
insane.
Like, yeah, it's good. So she's actually that's what I meant when I said that she's not a Gladio, because you can actually get use out of her as a supporting character. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I plan on using her for a couple of trials where I'm going to just be using her as a mitigation bot for Behemi, and then kind of this tame healer on non-LB turns.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone should get her. Almost everybody is going to use her at some point. But for new players, especially, or anybody that just doesn't have a good magic tank, this is a massive upgrade.
Yeah, exactly. So awesome unit. I'm happy to see like these units get so much love, especially from a game that I really enjoy. So it's a very nice chaos, or it's a very nice Chaos Wave Awakens. No, it's a very nice NVA. And Dream, did you do math for her base form damage? Like, is it even like no, right? No, okay.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, because like the mods aren't huge. They are.
She doesn't have a chronicle weapon, does she? Like, okay.
Not really. She's got the Mogking upgraded one, but not really.
One other thing that's neat is that they released a new trial, and that must mean that it's a good fight for a magic tank, right?
Yes,
so
exactly.
We can put Beatrix to her faces.
So it's Beatrix and Lightning Fast Zidane's best trial, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You want to bring both of these units. Yeah, they timed it perfectly.
Yeah, a magic favored trial that needs a physical tank. Perfect for both of them. Wait, what do you mean it's supposed to be the other way around?
But this is actually an interesting trial. It's one of those that's actually a bit more challenging. Well, depending on what you want to do, but it's actually a bit challenging, and it's definitely a gear check. So, Muspel, were you salivating over your tanks when this trial came out?
Yes, once I get around to doing it. I haven't yet because I've been busy with other stuff.
Oh my god.
But yes,
but Dream, you've done
this
it,
is
right?
what I live for.
Yeah, I did it on launch.
So this is the first fight we've seen since Asura, and like the second fight since the 6-star era, really, that's required like a physical tank.
Oh, right.
And it's not just any physical tank. I mean, this has
Sandworm,
and I mean, it has quite high requirements too.
I said a fight, Dream.
So, I mean, like comparing to Asura, Genies hit a lot harder. So let's just reel it back in. So Genies is actually 3 bosses. I don't know what they're called, like Jin, Shaitan, and
Saitama?
Dickbag. Sure. And the thing is, they're all different elements. They all have different weaknesses. There are a couple of elements that you can use, though. Either where one of the genies is extra weak to it, or where none of the genies are weak, exceptionally, or imperiled against it. And I guess the trial mechanic is all about not letting one genie survive. Because if one genie is alone, he does like a huge heal and some type of huge buff, right? And rages and can kill you.
Yeah. Which is probably going to kill you.
Yeah, that's and it's undispellable. I'm just guessing, but it should be
undispellable. I guess you could probably just like mirage through it if there's only one left, but you're almost definitely going to not beat the turn limit if there's only one left.
Yeah, and mind you, there is a party limit too, technically, with the mission. So
exactly.
Yeah,
so you want,
in practice, a lot of people are probably going to do 2 clears. They're going to do 1 with only 5 units, and then they're going to do 1 to clear within 8 turns.
I mean, if you have Ibarra, I mean, I don't have Ibarra, but
it's certainly possible to do both at once. It's just harder.
Yeah, I've seen so many clears with like, I don't know, so little turns on Ibarra. I'm like, holy shit.
Listen. I just want to say, if I can fucking do all missions within turn limit, than anyone can, okay? Dream knows this. We were talking in Discord. I literally had 0 of the units needed for this trial when we were talking about this. Like, no unit.
You said you had 0 of the units, and then we talked about it. It was like, oh, actually, I have a bunch of good units for it.
But yeah, so Ibarra and Physalis seem to be the two go-to mages for this. Like, you use Physalis to AoE chain her LB, or you're chaining for her LB as a finisher. Where Ibarra, I guess, chains. That's what you said, Dream, right? So she's not LBing.
Yeah, she just spams her lightning chains because this is one of the few spots where, like, her being AoE on her basic change really helps.
So there's essentially three mechanics that go on here.
Innate fairy.
The first is every single turn, each of the genies will do 2 physical AoEs that hit pretty hard. You're gonna need an NV physical tank for this. Basically, any of the NV physical tanks can do it, aside from like Bradley probably. But the best ones would be the bulkier ones,
wow, Bradley in shambles.
Gabranth would be ideal. King Bahimi can do it with me. He might need a few STMRs or a little bit of external support for certain turns, depending on how fast you're killing them.
Gladio needs support.
Gladio can do it, but he'll almost definitely need support. Snow can probably do it without too much trouble.
He's not too bad. Yeah. Well, I think the big reason why Snow does work here is a lot of the time you're wanting to bring Realm to amp up your damage dealers, and she can do a lot of LB fill on turn 1 in order for Snow to immediately use his 90% net, because without that he would struggle a lot more.
So it's kind of like Gabby, or Cinzar was saying in the Discord, Cinzar was saying that Gabby is kind of the safe route, because he's just going to be, like, if you have sufficient gear, he's just going to be tanky enough and shrug. Yeah, easy choice. He's going to shrug everything off.
Choice.
But Behemi kind of is Behemi is a bit of, like, very much depending, just like you said, Muspel, on your gear. So if you have enough gear, enough STMRs, Behemi doesn't need external support, but it's kind of cutting it close, and you're still then doing a bit of a special scenario where you're going to be guarding a couple of turns just to,
and mind
you,
sure. that external support in this case could just be something as simple as evoking Golem, and you need to evoke an Esper anyway from the mission, so
yeah, exactly.
May as well kill 2 birds with 1 literal stone.
And one thing to keep in mind for anyone that's now about to attempt this trial, well, first of all, of course, you don't need to do it within turn limit. You don't even need to do it with 5 units. Either is just fun to challenge yourself, but damage falls off significantly as soon as you kill 1 genie. So, like, if you're struggling, one of the strats is really to put all of your mitigation support up front. Like, you're summoning Golem every fucking turn. You're, like, doing everything until you get 1 genie down. And then you can relax a bit, and then literally any tank is gonna, well, NV tank is gonna have an easy time getting through the rest of the fight.
Yeah. If you want to do this within the turn limit, you're pretty much going to have to use AoE damage of some kind. Ideally, you want it to be damage that one of them is weak to, so that one dies faster. And then once you're down to 2 genies, it gets a lot easier, like Barrows said.
Yeah. The thing is, like, but there's so much shit that can go down, because, like, again, you can't kill 1. So, like, on the last turn of Physalis' Brave Shift, or the Brave Shift Grandis that fills up her LB, I got, like, I got the 2 remaining genies down to 0% and 4%. That's fucking depressing, because then you have, like, 2-3 turns of getting back and doing that same damage again. So that sucked. And that's a bit annoying. I'm not sure I am a huge fan of this enrage mechanic, honestly, because, like, the thing about this trial is, if you have an AoE damage dealer, you're just gonna beat it faster. So let's say Shui Yu, for instance. She's a single target mage. If you bring her to this trial, she's gonna take 3 times as long as an AoE damage dealer, just because she hits 1 person, not 3 at once. I don't know why you needed to add an enrage mechanic in it too. You could just punish. They are already punished, right? So I hate that, because I really want to do a Shui Yu clear, but it's going to be a real hassle to make sure you kill the last 2 on the same turn.
Yeah. It's not the first time we've seen a fight like this. It's just, usually when there's multiple enemies you have to kill at once, like, it's 1 tough enemy and then 2 or more that are very easy to kill. Like, it's an old trial, but Rumble of Malboro was like that.
And the Chocobo trial too, right? Ish?
Chocobo Trial was a few weaker enemies and then one very tough enemy that you generally killed after them.
Right, right.
Or
No, yeah,
or
there
there
was
or
no
there's
one.
fights where you can
Yeah, you don't
AoE,
really
but
have to
you're
kill
generally
everything
killing
at
one
once
last,
to-
like Anthanola.
Yeah, so it's
But,
kind of.
yeah.
I mean, it's nice. Although I'm gonna take what I said back because it's really nice to have a trial that's made for AOE mages because that's a very rare thing. And usually we complain about AOE mages because of DV usually. But so that's nice. I just don't like. I mean, again, as I said, single target mages are already punished heavily by having to deal with one at a time, and they're not doing 3 times as much damage as the AOE mages. So it's kind of.
Yeah.
It's a bit too much.
In general, it is
Yeah.
nice to see.
Although
an
a lot of
AoE
people are
fight
going
that-
crazy about Ibarra here. I mean, it's nice to see that Ibarra has been such a strong unit since her release. I still regret not pulling her. And when I was about to do this trial, I went to my friends list and it was only
All
Ibarras.
Ibarras. Everything is Ibarra.
It's like yeah,
She's
I
definitely
guess. I mean,
the
she needs
optimal
nothing,
choice
right?
here.
She's just gonna be chaining lightning.
Yeah, she just spams her chain, buffs herself with Fairy
Yeah,
Killer.
that's so cool. I mean, that is
Rick's
really
house.
cool. And Ibarra is still a very cool unit, and she's been very useful for many people. So
But yeah,
please, more units like that, Gumi. Like, okay, not intentionally broken like Ibarra was, but just like, well designed.
I don't think
Nice.
Ibarra was intentional, but we can talk about that.
No,
another
sorry,
time.
I meant unintentionally broken. Yeah. But,
Okay.
yeah.
but yeah, a couple more things. Like, if you don't have Ibarra or Physalis, I think Radiant Lightning Shift form can potentially
I've
do
seen
an
it happen.
in-turn limit with Realm support, but it's going to be a lot closer. And, the other defensive mechanic you need to worry about is there's single target magic that's Fire, Wind, and Dark, and has like 150% Imperils attached just before the damage. So you want to provoke tank with 250.
Post
You can
buffs.
use resist buffs to
Two
help
or
with
three
that,
of
obviously.
those. It can be after buffs.
I think that's good to note because I was really struggling on gearing my lightning with 80% provoke and 250 resistances, and then I realized, oh yeah, I don't have to. So that made it much easier. Oh, and I guess SOS Lightning is really an MV. Yeah,
you
exactly.
also
I also
realize
realized
she
that.
has an active
And also SOS
provoke.
Lightning is a really good choice for this trial because she has an active provoke, she actually has resistances to all the elements except dark, and she has breaks, she has spirit breaks that you need. So again, I love seeing SOS Lightning performing so well. As I've said, she's like the best designed unit in the game, and she just keeps coming back, and I love it. I'm actually gonna try to do
So she's probably
yeah, I was gonna say I actually am gonna try to do a SOS Lightning run on it. Obviously, that's not gonna be in turn limit, but she should probably also be one of the units because she has AOE magic chains, so she should be able to take this trial. Yeah, she has the spirit breaks AOE, I think.
Oh, cool. Okay, but yeah, she's probably like the optimal choice for provoke tank plus breaker, especially as she can amp your damage a bit further with the 90% spirit break. But a couple other ones do work for that, like compression slot. Like I used Bradley instead.
Do keep in mind that
because of his active
Lightning's
provoke.
LB huge spirit break is single target. So although that can even be good because you might actually want to burst down one of the genies faster. So that's just nice to put it on that genie and go, hard.
Or if they end up uneven because of damage variance, you could put it on the ones at higher HP to help even them out.
Yeah.
Like if, for instance, I know this wouldn't happen to anybody, but let's say that you were in a situation where one of them might die and the other one might survive with 4% health. You could use Savior of Souls Lightning to make sure that they both died at the same time.
Yeah, the only problem with that is that I also needed Savior of Souls Lightning. I could have done that, but I also needed her to chain with Realm to cap the LBs, unfortunately. But like if I had set up so Behemi could do it somehow, like chain with Realm, that could have worked like as a backup. I didn't think about it, but maybe that is actually possible gearing for the trial. Then I could then they would have died on turn 5 with Fizzless. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty much everything that happened this week.